All right, I just want to record a quick little pre-thing I'm going to put at the start of the podcast, just that when we're talking about this, this is just how much I don't know my English geography, my UK geography. I kept confusing Scotland and Wales. So when I say that this guy started in Wales, pretend I'm saying Scotland. He started in Scotland.
At the far point, which would be about, oh yeah, God, at least twice as far away as
Yeah.
if it was Wales.
Yeah, I was downplaying his accomplishments. Okay, so we'll start the episode here. So last episode we did the hot and cold episode, the horrible cold in Russia and then the volcanic island in Japan. So I had another weird idea kind of like that of just dualities, but this one is indoor and outdoor. so for the indoor, we'll do that at the end because it's just a little cartoon that it's only like an 11-minute little cartoon, but I just thought I'd show you the current state of cartoons. We'll talk about it when we get there. But because that's the classic staying indoors watching cartoons bullshit. But the outdoor one, this is another guy I found on YouTube. So it's kind of interesting. He's this British guy named Liam who he joined the military as a chef, and he did 4 years in the military, and then it was like one of those 4-year stints. And then I guess at that point, that's where it's easiest to leave if you want to leave. You can leave with, you got to give them like a whole year. You got to tell them in year 3 you want to leave, and they don't let you leave till the end of the 4th year. But that's kind of the make or break. Either you do leave then, or you become a lifer military guy.
Okay.
So he decided not to. He decided he did the military thing. He tried it out. He didn't have a bad experience, but he didn't want to stay there. So then he started kind of radically going the opposite of regimented military life, where he sold all his shit and he just became like a van guy, just driving around, camping out of the back of his van or whatever. And he had this YouTube channel and it was sort of popular. But how I found out about him is he had this one video that just blew up, got 1 million views, because instead of the van, he decided to up the ante. He's like, all right, I'm stuck in England because of COVID and I can't really travel. And I've been doing this van thing for a couple of years. And again, England's just not that big. I've been everywhere in my van. So he decided to go to the most northerly point in Wales, I believe, and walk all the way to the most southerly point in England.
You know what's strange about that? Well, it's not strange, but before people had automobiles and that,
Yeah, that's
they did that.
Yeah.
They walked all over. People, like, it would be probably, I won't say nothing to walk from North Wales to South Wales. It probably took you a couple of days. But hey, if you had to get up in the morning and get to South Wales, that's how you got there.
Yeah, I always think of like Robin Hood, the carriage, the stagecoach, or not stagecoach, but the carriage, I guess, going by, and then the merry men come out of Sherwood Forest and attack you.
But see, those were rich people who had horses and could travel in carriages. Your average Joe who lived in a little town and maybe was a factory worker or made wares at home and sold them, he didn't have that kind of stuff, so he walked.
Yeah.
And you see, when you watch British, especially British shows, Jane Austen, those kind of things, they're always walking all over the countryside.
It does make me think too with like the Robin Hood stuff or the Merry Men, or I think of like Dungeons and Dragons, where you're walking along and a bunch of goblins jump out of the woods. But like I bet it was kind of like that. Like this guy, in this guy's case, this video is about 40 minutes long, and I can't remember how long it takes him, but a while, because he walks all the way to the bottom of England. It's a pretty long walk, and he's got his phone with him the whole time and stuff. Whereas, yeah, I bet back in those days, it probably was a legitimate worry that if some bandits jump out of the woods, what are you gonna do? You just gotta hope they don't kill you.
Even if you're in a caravan or something a horse-drawn wagon or whatever. So what? What kind of protection is that? The horses take off and leave you stranded.
Or like around here, I've gotten really comfortable with walking around at night through the woods because I've realized the woods here are really nothing, especially Odell. But even the UNB woodlot, it's surrounded by highways and stuff. The likelihood of a bear being in there is very low. But I remember in BC, it would worry me sometimes if I had to go through the woods at night because they have lots of bears out there. And, it still would only be 15 minutes maybe that I'm cutting through some national park before I get back to traffic. But that 15 minutes was so scary that it would make me think of if you were walking, from London to Sherwood fucking whatever.
Forest.
Yeah.
Sherwood Forest.
I always think of Sherwood Forest because it's just funny that it's a real place, like it just seems funny that that's a real town. But yeah, like that must have been truly scary because you don't even have the social infrastructure that we have now. You don't have police. You don't have anyone that cares
Yeah,
about
you're
you.
just walking over the hills and the dales and the
Yeah.
ins and the outs and the ups and the downs. And
And yeah, once night hits, it's like, it must be very
well,
scary.
you probably had to stop somewhere because it would be dark. You wouldn't have a flashlight or anything like that. So you probably had to stop and make your little fire in the woods or by the side of the road and hope that bandits didn't come out and attack you for food or whatever they'd be stealing.
Which even, I mean, I don't even know if that really did happen because how did the bandits live in the woods? Like that's probably also sort of a
Hey, you just gotta
trumped
watch
up.
Robin Hood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's
Oh,
probably sort of exaggerated for the sake of storytelling, probably. Because I mean, yeah, but who knows? I don't really know that much about that
Well,
era.
you probably stopped at some farmer who would have a little hovel that he built somewhere out of mud and cedar shakes or something on his roof in one room, and you probably stopped in there and they offered you hospitality for the night and you paid them a couple of shekels and then you went on your way.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought this was kind of neat because this is, it's like the extremely soft echo of those days of like now this guy, there's nothing really tough about what this guy does, but it's just neat. It's just a neat little video. And again, it's my continuing obsession with it's just so cool that someone can just film this themselves and edit it together themselves and get 1 million views. And it's like neat. It's so cool. But if you want to look this up, dear listener, it's called No Rent, a Tent and a Camera, Backpacking Britain is the name of the video.
No rent, a tent, and a camera, backpacking Britain. This is my journey walking from Jorrell Groves in Scotland to Land's End in England.
God! That's some kind of a trap.
Anyway, I better start planning the next adventure. I don't know what's gonna top backpacking Britain, but I'm sure I'll think of something. Well, that was worth it.
So yeah, I just thought that was just a neat little thing that I just liked that video. So I thought, why not? Let's check it out.
It was interesting, but some of the other ones we've watched, it kind of makes you really want to do it.
Right.
This one, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, I think this is, it's kind of come up before, like when we were talking about Carl Pilkington and stuff. Like I really respect, it's one thing I like about watching YouTube people versus a TV production is you do get the bare facts of it. Like I thought it was so interesting when he was 2/3 of the way through just talking about the monotony, like he was always in a brain fog. Like nobody in a TV crew would ever talk about that, not only because they wouldn't want to talk about it, but they probably wouldn't experience that. He's literally by himself for
Yeah.
2 months.
And he talked about things that were reality, like the days that it rained and rained. I mean, he looked absolutely miserable.
Yeah, or
And
just
he
all the
talked about
bugs in
the
Scotland.
Wet socks, and
Yeah.
he couldn't get his socks dry. And then when he did get them dry, they were hard and they rubbed on his feet. I mean, that's reality. That is what would happen to your socks. And give him his due, when he was going through that bog and his sneakers were wet, you could almost hear them squishing on his feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
But yeah, I like that stuff. I like that. It's like why pretend that it? Because but it's like it doesn't devalue the parts that are very pretty and nice.
I'd love doing that in a small doses,
Right.
like do like maybe a day's walk, and then through the boring stuff, get in a car and drive to the next route.
It almost-
as opposed to just continually walking every day, because that is hard. And your father and I did that when we were in Europe. We
Right.
walked an awful lot. And when you finally did get to stay in some place that was kind of decent, it was like, oh, heaven.
It like makes me jealous of. I mean, he's in his early 20s and he's in good shape, but it makes me jealous just of people that have symmetrical bodies. Because I've got flat feet and scoliosis. I just can't do that. Like I love walking, but I have to have special insoles in my shoes, and I always have like a walking stick to kind of prop up my shoulder if it starts to hurt. And it's just like, if I were to do this, I would have to do it like half the speed he was going, if not even slower, just so that my shitty body could rest. It's like I'm like jealous of this guy that he can just hike 20 miles in a
Well,
day.
as I say, just short stints and seeing just parts of this stuff, and then driving parts, and then seeing more. That would be my game,
Right.
rather than a continual 49 days. I mean, I'd be getting up in the morning and say, "Oh my God, I got another day I got to put in here."
I think, yeah, if I was to do
I'm
it,
sore. I'm wet. My socks are hard.
yeah, my method would have to be much slower, and I would have definitely more gear. Like I would have rain boots and better, like, when it's all rainy, I would want to have all that stuff. So I think I honestly might do, like with the backpack I've got when I was traveling, like I could fit all my stuff into my book bag, but the key to that thing was that it's got wheels and a handle. So it is a backpack, but if you are on a road, you can just take all and just carry it like a wagon sort of. And that makes a big difference. Like you can't do that on a country trail, but there was a lot of this where he was on just paved road. So I would not carry the book bag the whole time. I would switch it up or whatever.
But he certainly saw some beautiful stuff, and that is the beauty of walking. You see so much more when you walk. He saw wild animals that you would never see in a car.
Right.
But it's not something that I would want to do. Whereas some of the other ones, I said, man, I wouldn't like some of those places in Japan. Oh man, I'd love to go and do those.
Right.
England, I think what it is, it was lovely. It's beautiful, but it's very much like what we have here in Canada.
Yeah.
As far as scenery, wild, like rocks, mountains. We don't have the pathways that they have for obviously walking. They seem to have an incredible system set up over there for the walker, whereas we're very limited. We have little sections of walking trails, and then they stop. But as far as the physical scenery of it, very, very similar to Canada. Like northern Scotland looks very much like Newfoundland.
Yeah. And definitely, just a weird thing to watch today, too, because this weather is insane today. And I was saying as we were watching it, like I'm watching his beautiful view of here's the cliffs and here's the sunset. And then I glanced up out the window. It's literally just white outside. Like you can't even see colors today. I can see like a little red of some headlights. It's like some taillights of a car. Everything else is white.
Yeah, and you can hear the wind beating on the windows.
Ridiculous. So then I thought just to tack on to that, much, much shorter little 11-minute thing, but I thought with the outdoors. That's why I had the idea of outdoors and indoors, where I thought I could show you a weird little cartoon, because what made me think of this is the idea of cartoons that are intended for grown-ups. Like, you could argue the Looney Tunes cartoons back in the day, they were for kids, but grown-ups could also enjoy them. But I feel like when cartoons really shifted to like, this is clearly not for kids, is Ren and Stimpy in the 90s, is what I think of as the first show where they really put down the flag of like, this is to make stoned grown-ups laugh. If kids want to watch it, that's fine, but that's not who this is for. And I thought that was kind of funny, because do you remember in Ren and Stimpy, there was that weird song about the log? Like, it's the new toy all the kids want. Log. It rolls downstairs, a loner in pairs, runs over your neighbor's dog. But the joke is it's just a log that they're marketing to kids. And then one Christmas, as a joke, you wrapped up a log and gave me a log. Because, like, I was in 9th grade when Ren and
Still
Stimpy...
have that little log at home, actually.
Right. I was 8th or 9th grade when Ren and Stimpy was really big, and I just remember, going back to school, and people were like, hey, what'd you get for Christmas? And I was like, I got a log. And everybody watched Ren and Stimpy, so they were like, oh, that's actually pretty funny that you got a log. Yeah, and like Ren and Stimpy really started a lineage of shows. Ever since then, there's always been, what's the next Ren and Stimpy type show? It's never stopped ever since then. There's always these kind of offbeat, weird shows that are kind of for grown-ups. And, sadly, this is sort of a side point, but the guy, John Kricfalusi, who made Ren and Stimpy, he kind of got... it turns out, back in those days in the 90s, it's like technically he didn't do anything illegal, but he was in his 30s at the time, and he became this big cartoon celebrity, because, Ren and Stimpy was super famous. And it was like he was dating these much younger women. And he would always wait until they were legal age, technically. But as these stories came out years later, it's like he was grooming them. Like he would get a fan letter from like a 16-year-old girl and would start corresponding with her and establish a relationship. And then when she became 18, then he would go fly to wherever she lived or fly her out, and they would become his girlfriend. And it was all creepy and weird. And like, you know, that whole power dynamic thing of he's the famous cartoon guy and she's just some young woman. So now that all these women are in their 30s now, all these stories came out of how awful he was. And it's like, man, what a bummer. It's not like I watch Ren and Stimpy on the regular anymore, but I'll never be able to watch it again without knowing that that guy was such a creep. So anyway, that's the sad tale of John Kricfalusi. But this show, this is, to me, this is like the latest in that line of Ren and Stimpy type shows. It's called Smiling Friends. And this one is neat because it's this guy, Zach Hadel, who I knew through YouTube. Again, YouTube stuff. He just did YouTube cartoons and everybody kind of knew him from his little YouTube cartoons. So he finally got a real cartoon on Cartoon Network, and it's called Smiling Friends, and it's only 11 minutes long. And I just thought I'd show you that as the counterpoint. Instead of outdoors, let's watch the weird cartoon, just in case you're curious of whatever happened with this weird Ren and Stimpy shit that your kids used to watch in the 90s. Like, what? Because I'm still doing it. I'm at 40 whatever now, and I'm still watching cartoons because there's just these cartoons that are, you know, marketed to me of like, hey, guy that used to like cartoons, used to like Ren and Stimpy, well, here you go. Here's the new one.
There were a lot of cartoons, though, that were kind of adult-generated, especially when you get into some of the Japanese cartoons.
Right.
But as a culture, a North American culture, we always had this thing that if it's animated, cartoon, whatever, it's for children.
Right.
We kind of lost that whole idea that it was for. It could be for older people. God, in the 1950s and 60s, they were the classic comics that took novels, famous novels, and put them into cartoon-type form. And those were for adults. But it was always, no, it's cartoons. They're kids.
Yeah,
That's for kids.
And even now it's pretty rare, but they've kind of staked out their claim now where on Cartoon Network, it's this block of programming they started called Adult Swim. Which is,
yes, I've seen Adult Swim, yeah.
Yeah, so it's on later at night, and it's like distinctly these cartoons. Like, you know, it's not like you can't show them to kids. There's nothing terrible in them, but they're just weird. Like they're clearly for adults. So anyway, I thought I'd show you Smiling Friends. Just again, kind of a not a very clear connection between these two things, but just because we did Fire and Ice, I thought indoor, outdoor. Okay, why not? It's funny too, this guy, Zach Hadel, you'll recognize his voice for sure, because one thing, he did funny cartoons, but his voice is so distinctive because he has like a deviated septum, so all of his characters sound like this or whatever. But it kind of works for being a cartoon voice guy because he's got a very distinctive voice.
Yeah, what about that?
What? Dance?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of cool, but it doesn't make me feel any better, though.
Yeah, no, I didn't think so. Okay,
What a depressing cartoon.
Yeah, I guess I said, like, oh, you know, maybe you could show this to kids. I guess not. You probably shouldn't call it.
I don't really think that's kid stuff.
Yeah, probably better not to show that to kids. Yeah, truly bizarre. But I just thought, you know, if you take Ren and Stimpy and you add 25 years, here's where we are now. This is, and yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't really know what to say about it. It's just weird for the sake of weird, mostly.
It's weird, but it is also depressing.
I think my favorite part of it is just like, so the whole, you know, thing is that they're just trying to, get a depressed guy to feel less depressed. So there's the Australian little dude who's really into it and is really trying to help, whereas the yellow dude, he just doesn't give a fuck. Like,
It's just a job, right?
Yeah, like
He's gonna get paid, whatever happens.
Yeah. My favorite scene is right at the end. Is the last chance to make this guy feel better, and he's just like, I don't know. What about that? What, the ant? Yeah, sure. Why not? Like, he doesn't give a fuck at all.
And see, right from the beginning, he had said, this guy's too far gone. We can't do anything. Like, he wasn't willing to kind of really commit to this at all.
And I mean, I guess technically the suicidal guy, you know, he finds a new lease on life. But yeah, in the most weird. Like I guess it is just like
Yes, killing things.
yeah, because like Ren and Stimpy always had that undercurrent of like there's just something perverse going on here, even if you can't quite put your finger on it. Where it's not at all subtle anymore. And
These guys come right out and lay her right out for you. I mean, life sucks, and you have these little blips of happiness, but they don't last.
even just really what's so mean about it is that the one upbeat character, the little purple guy, kind of that's really the story of the episode is like he wants to try to help this guy, but he can't. He takes him to meet his family, but his family's horrible. He tries to take him to a party, and everyone makes fun of him. And then he eventually just gets his will to live sapped away.
Yeah, his own life sucks.
And yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any better.
His own life is worse.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of other episodes, but they're all like that. That's basically it. So I just thought that would be a weird counterpoint to like the guy who does the 2-month hike and sees beautiful nature, and some of it's good, some of it's bad. But if you don't go on the hike, if you just stay inside and watch TV, that's what you're watching these days. That's the current state of the cartoon for grown-ups. So anyway, that's the Smiling Friends. Yeah.
Well, you get to the end of it and you're not smiling.
Yeah. Which is interesting too, I guess, in a way that like these people that have toiled away doing YouTube stuff, they finally get their chance to make a real show. And yeah, they're not interested in making a normal show. They're like, no, let's do this show. Even like the side plot of the like infestation in the walls, so creepy, of just like the little purple thing that got its hand cut off, and they just start stabbing them and lighting them on fire. Yeah, I don't know.
You're right. It's so different than the first thing that we watched. Here's Buddy, travels all that distance, 1,100 miles. He has his ups, his downs. He talks about how miserable he feels with his wet feet and how tired he is. But at the end, when he finishes and he gets to that Land's End in England, he's pleased with himself.
Right.
And he's happy, and he's accomplished something. And it's quite upbeat. Very upbeat, in fact. But then you watch that other thing, and
Well, I guess I do kind of respect that
I
about.
feel sorry for the poor little purple guy who is so upbeat and happy, and like, and his life really does stink.
I guess I kind of respect that though about Smiling Friends is, it's not TV you can watch. It's as like the opiate of the masses or whatever that just pacifies you and calms you, and just you watch TV just to numb your life.
Yeah, for an escapism.
Yeah, you can't watch Smiling Friends without thinking about, why am I sitting inside watching this? So I respect it in that
No,
sense.
and it comes right out and hits you right between the eyes with what its message is.
Yeah. Like, you probably shouldn't be watching this. This is not a good use of your time.
And if you are somebody who has kind of a depressed side to you, who looks at the world as the glass is half empty, I don't think you should be watching that at all.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're one of these the glass is half full people and you watch it, because you can absorb that and say, oh yeah, well, okay, whatever, life kind of sucks, but hey, there's some good things to it too. But if you're a depressed person and that's all you watch, holy, that'll drag you right down.
I love too when the little purple dude Pim takes them to meet his family. Just so he's so oblivious. He's like, this will cheer the guy up. But it's like, his sister's like, oh, I hate you, Pim. And his dad's just like, shut the fuck up. I've been in the mines all day. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It is weird. It's like one of these shows that if they never made any more, I'd be like, that's fine. But if they do make another season, I will watch it. So it's in that weird middle ground. So anyway, there's our indoor and outdoor episode.